Over the course of a single weekend, an open-source AI system went from being a niche project to an absolute obsession within the tech world. It promised a completely new level of power and autonomy. But it also came with a pretty significant catch. Today, we're going to unpack what Clawdbot is and what its meteoric rise really tells us about the future of personal AI.
There's really no better way to understand this system than with a single word from its creator, Peter Steinberger. He called it spicy. And that word perfectly captures the central tension here. He's talking about giving an AI shell access. That's direct command line control over your computer's operating system. It's the very source of its incredible power, and it's all balanced on a knife's edge of risk.
All right, so let's get into the analysis. We'll kick things off with its explosive growth, and then we'll break down its unique architecture. From there, we'll look at the fundamental choice it forces between control and convenience. We'll explore the incredible capabilities it unlocks, but then we have to confront the serious responsibilities that come with it. And finally, we'll give you a framework to help you decide if this approach actually fits your own strategy.
So, what was the catalyst here? What made this tool go from some obscure project to a viral system that captured the imagination of developers and early adopters so completely and seemingly overnight? So at its core, Clawdbot is an open-source AI assistant that you deploy on your own hardware. It is important to know it was later renamed Moltbot. That was after a request from Anthropic, who, create the Claude AI models. But it was under the name Clawdbot that it really became a phenomenon.
Now, let's take a look at what makes Clawdbot's design so different. See, this isn't just a small improvement on tools we already have. It really represents a fundamentally new architecture for personal AI.
The key concept to grasp is Agentic AI. A standard chatbot, well, it's passive. It just waits for your next command. An agentic system like Clawdbot, on the other hand, is designed to operate autonomously. It runs continuously, it maintains context from all your past interactions, and it can execute these complex, multi-step workflows all on its own. That right there is what persistent agency really means.
And this gets to the very heart of the system's philosophy: user sovereignty. All the operational data, your conversations, the AI's memory, the custom skills it develops for you, all of it is stored on your local hardware. You have complete ownership and control. And that's a sharp turn away from the cloud-based services that manage your data for you.
So, it operates in this continuous cycle. You give it a command, usually through a messaging app. It then uses a large language model to come up with a multi-step plan. Next, it executes that plan using its available skills and system tools, reports back to you on its progress, and then it updates its own memory, refining its capabilities for the next task. It's always learning.
Okay, this is where the strategic implications really become clear. Clawdbot forces you to make a choice. And to really understand that choice, we can compare it directly to an official managed alternative from Anthropic called Claude Cowork.
What we have here are two completely different philosophies. On one side, you've got Claude Cowork, a polished, managed app designed for total ease of use. On the other side, you have Clawbot, a powerful, open system that you build and operate yourself. And as we break this down, you're going to see that every single point of comparison comes back to one fundamental trade-off. Are you optimizing for convenience or for control?
The difference is obvious right from the very beginning. Getting Claude Coworker up and running is, a 5-minute process? You download the app, you grant permissions, and it's good to go. Deploying Clawdbot, in contrast, is a multi-hour commitment. It requires real technical skill with command line interfaces, server configuration, and API management.
Their financial models are also completely different. Cowork is a predictable, fixed subscription fee. Clawdbot, it uses a variable cost model. You have a small, fixed cost for a server, and then you pay only for the API calls the agent actually makes. For moderate usage, that structure can actually end up being cheaper. So, what's the payoff? What's the return on that investment of time and technical know-how? The answer is a level of raw capability and deep customization that a managed sandbox tool just cannot replicate. This isn't just a tool. You have to think of it more like a primitive for self-evolving software. Users are reporting these just astounding emergent behaviors. It can be tasked to write its own code, literally developing new skills on the fly to solve problems it hasn't seen before. It can replace entire automation services just by programming its own scheduled tasks. One user even documented it building its own web interface overnight.
And crucially, you control its brain. You can swap between any major LLM from Anthropic, OpenAI, or Google, or even run a local model for maximum privacy and zero API costs.
But this brings us to the other side of the equation, because with absolute control comes absolute responsibility. When you run a system like Clawdbot, you're not just a user anymore. You become the system administrator.
Let me be very clear about this. Security is now entirely your problem. All the maintenance, all the updates, all the debugging, that falls to you. And you have to actively manage complex risks like prompt injection, where malicious data could actually trick your agent into executing commands you never intended, commands that could be harmful. You're no longer just using a tool, you are actively managing live infrastructure.
And look, this isn't some external warning. The project's own documentation is explicit about the dangers. It states that giving an AI full, persistent shell access to your computer is inherently risky, and that no configuration can ever be considered perfectly secure. This is a system that absolutely demands constant vigilance.
So all of this leads us to the final strategic consideration. This isn't about which tool is objectively better. It's about which operational framework aligns with your specific needs, your technical capabilities, and your personal tolerance for risk. The choice here isn't really a technical one. It's a strategic one. You have to align the architecture of the tool with the reality of your own workflow and your own responsibilities.
So, here's a pretty clear decision-making framework. If you need a seamless, zero-maintenance experience on macOS and you're comfortable with a major corporation managing your security and data, then Claude Cowork is the logical choice. But if you require cross-platform support, if you demand total control over the models in your data, and if you have the technical skill to manage your own secure infrastructure, then Claudebot unlocks an entirely different class of capability.
Ultimately, the emergence of something like Clawbot forces a fundamental question about the future that we're all building. Will the dominant model for personal AI be the polished, convenient, and secure walled gardens offered by large corporations? Or will it be the powerful, customizable, but far riskier world of sovereign, self-hosted agents that we control completely? That is the strategic question that is now on the table.